How humans evolved from early ancestors. More than 6 million years ago, the world looked very different from today. Dense forests covered large parts of Africa. Strange animals walked the land. Massive predators ruled the wild. Somewhere inside those forests, small ape-like creatures slowly began a journey that would eventually lead to modern humans. This is the story of human evolution. It is a story of survival, adaptation, intelligence, migration, and transformation across millions of years. Part 1. The First Ancestors. More than 6 million years ago, the African continent looked nothing like the modern world we know today. Huge forests stretched across the land. Thick vegetation covered large regions. Strange birds filled the sky. Massive predators moved silently through the grasslands. And hidden among the trees lived small, ape-like creatures that would eventually become humanity's earliest ancestors. At this time, the Earth was changing. Climate shifts slowly transformed parts of Africa from dense forests into open grassland. For many ancient primates, survival became harder. Food sources changed. Danger increased. Animals that once depended completely on trees were now forced to spend more time on the ground. Scientists believe this environmental change played a major role in the beginning of human evolution. One of the earliest known ancestors connected with the human line was Sahelanthropus chidensis. Fossils discovered in Chad revealed a creature with a mixture of ape and human features. It had a small brain like an ape, but its skull suggested it may have walked upright for short periods. This was one of the earliest signs of a transformation that would change life forever. Walking on two legs, also called bipedalism, became one of the most important developments in human evolution. At first, these early ancestors were not fully upright like modern humans. They still climbed trees. They still slept in safer elevated areas to avoid predators. But slowly their bodies began adapting to life on the ground. Their hips changed. Their legs became stronger. Their spines adjusted to support upright movement. Over millions of years, walking became more natural. Scientists believe standing upright gave early humans several survival advantages. They could see predators over tall grass. They could travel farther distances using less energy. Their hands became free to carry food, babies, and eventually tools. This small physical change would later help shape the future of human civilization. Life during this period was extremely dangerous. Early ancestors shared the environment with giant predators. Large cats hunted across the grasslands. Massive crocodiles waited near rivers. Hyenas scavenged constantly. Survival depended on awareness, speed, and cooperation. Unlike stronger animals, early ancestors did not have sharp claws or powerful teeth. Their greatest advantage slowly became intelligence and social behavior. These early groups likely lived together for protection. They communicated using simple sounds, body language, and facial expressions. Mothers protected their young. Groups warned each other about danger. Even at this early stage, the roots of human cooperation were beginning to form. Scientists also discovered another important ancestor known as Australopithecus. Australopithecus lived around 4.4 million years ago. Unlike modern apes, this species showed clear evidence of both climbing and upright walking. Its feet were still adapted for gripping branches, but its body structure suggested it could move across the ground better than earlier ancestors. This showed that evolution was happening slowly, step by step. Human evolution was not a sudden event. It took millions of years. Generation after generation, tiny changes accumulated. Bodies adapted. Brains slowly developed. Behaviors changed. The environment itself shaped survival. Those best suited for changing conditions survived long enough to reproduce. This process became known as natural selection. Over time, traits that improved survival became more common. Ancient ancestors that adapted successfully passed their characteristics to future generations. As climates continued changing across Africa, forests became smaller in some regions. Open plains expanded. This forced early ancestors to travel farther in search of food and water. Walking upright became even more valuable. The transformation from ape-like creatures into early human ancestors was now underway. But evolution was still only beginning. The brains of these early ancestors remained small. Their lives were controlled mostly by instinct and survival. They had not yet created tools. They had not mastered fire. They had not built shelters or formed civilization. Yet within these fragile creatures existed the foundation of humanity, the ability to adapt, the instinct to cooperate, the drive to survive. Over millions of years, those qualities would eventually lead to modern humans. And deep within the forests and grasslands of ancient Africa, the first chapter of the human story had begun. Part 2. The age of Australopithecus, around 4 million years ago, evolution entered another important stage. A new group of early human ancestors appeared across parts of Africa. These ancestors became known as the Australopithecines. Unlike earlier ancestors, Australopithecus species spent far more time walking upright. Their bodies were becoming increasingly adapted for life on the ground. One of the most famous discoveries connected to this period was a fossil known as Lucy. Lucy was discovered in Ethiopia in 1974. Scientists identified her as Australopithecus afarensis. Her skeleton revealed something remarkable. She could walk upright, but she still had long arms and curved fingers suited for climbing trees. This showed that early humans were still caught between two worlds. Part of their lives remained in the trees, but more and more of their survival depended on moving across the land. Africa during this period was harsh and unpredictable. The environment constantly changed. Some areas remained forested. Others became open grasslands filled with danger. Food was not always easy to find. Early humans had to search constantly for fruits, nuts, roots, insects, eggs, and small animals. Every day was a struggle for survival. Large predators hunted across the plains. Saber-toothed cats stalked silently through tall grass. Giant crocodiles waited beside rivers. Hyenas competed aggressively for food. Unlike powerful predators, Australopithecus lacked sharp claws and deadly teeth. Their survival depended heavily on awareness and cooperation. Groups likely stayed together for safety. Living in groups offered several advantages. More eyes could watch for predators. Adults could protect children. Food could be shared. These early forms of cooperation slowly became one of humanity's greatest strengths. Scientists believe communication also became more advanced during this time. Although they did not yet possess full language like modern humans, they likely used sounds, gestures, and facial expressions to warn others or coordinate activities. This social behavior helped strengthen group survival. Their brains were still relatively small compared to modern humans. However, gradual brain development was already taking place. Evolution was slowly shaping intelligence. Australopithecus species also showed clear physical changes connected to walking upright. Their pelvises evolved to support standing and movement on two legs. Their knees aligned differently from earlier ancestors. Their feet became more stable for walking long distances. These developments allowed them to travel farther in search of food and water. As environmental conditions shifted across Africa, mobility became increasingly important. Those who adapted successfully survived longer. This was natural selection at work. Millions of years passed as evolution continued shaping the bodies and behaviors of early humans. Some species disappeared. Others adapted and survived. The journey toward modern humanity remained slow and uncertain. But one thing had become clear. Human ancestors were no longer simply tree-dwelling primates. They were becoming creatures capable of adapting to multiple environments. The foundation for future human intelligence, endurance, and survival was steadily growing. And soon another major breakthrough would change human evolution forever. Part 3. The first tool makers. Around 2.5 million years ago, human evolution entered a revolutionary stage. For the first time, early humans began intentionally shaping objects into tools. A species known as Homo habilis appeared in Africa. The name Homo habilis means handyman. Scientists gave this name because fossils discovered beside stone tools suggested these early humans were capable of creating and using simple technology. This marked one of the biggest turning points in human history. Before tools, survival depended mostly on physical ability and instinct. But now intelligence itself was becoming a survival weapon. The earliest tools were simple but effective. Sharp stones were used for cutting meat. Heavy rocks were used for cracking bones. Pointed stones helped scrape animal hides and prepare food. Even basic tools dramatically increased survival chances. Early humans could now access food sources previously unavailable to them. Bones from dead animals contained nutritious marrow. Stone tools allowed them to break bones open and reach that rich food source. Scientists believe eating more protein and fat helped fuel brain development over time. As nutrition improved, human brains slowly became larger and more complex. Toolmaking also required planning and coordination. Early humans had to select the right stone. They had to understand how striking rocks together created sharp edges. This process demanded memory, observation, and learning. Knowledge may have been passed from older group members to younger generations. This was an early form of teaching. Life remained extremely dangerous. Early humans still faced attacks from predators. Many scientists believe Homo habilis often scavenged meat from carcasses left behind by larger hunters. This required courage and timing. Groups had to approach carefully before predators returned. Competition for survival was constant. Social behavior also became increasingly important. Groups that cooperated successfully had better chances of survival. Members likely shared food and protected one another. Communication skills gradually improved. Over thousands of generations, these social bonds became stronger. Scientists believe this period also marked important brain growth. Compared to earlier ancestors, Homo habilis had larger brains and greater problem-solving ability. This did not happen overnight. Human evolution remained a slow process shaped by millions of years. But intelligence was now becoming one of humanity's greatest advantages. Stone tools also changed how humans interacted with the environment. For the first time, early humans were not simply adapting physically. They were changing the world around them. This ability would eventually separate humans from every other species on Earth. As generations passed, another species began to emerge. This species would travel farther, survive longer, and transform human history forever. Part 4. The rise of Homo erectus. Nearly 2 million years ago, a new human ancestor emerged in Africa. This species was Homo erectus. Homo erectus became one of the most successful and important early humans in evolutionary history. Their bodies looked far more human than earlier ancestors. They had longer legs, stronger muscles, and improved endurance for walking and running long distances. Their brains were also significantly larger. These changes allowed Homo erectus to adapt to many different environments. For the first time in history, early humans began spreading far beyond Africa. Groups migrated into parts of Asia and Europe. This was the beginning of humanity's global journey. Migration was not easy. Ancient humans crossed dangerous landscapes filled with predators, harsh weather, and limited food. But Homo erectus survived because of intelligence, endurance, and cooperation. One of the greatest breakthroughs connected to Homo erectus was the control of fire. Fire transformed human life forever. At first, early humans may have collected fire from natural events like lightning strikes or wildfires. Eventually, they learned how to maintain and control it. Fire provided warmth during cold nights. It protected groups from predators. It created light in darkness. Most importantly, it allowed humans to cook food. Cooking changed human biology and survival. Cooked meat became easier to chew and digest. It released more nutrients and energy. Scientists believe this contributed greatly to brain growth. Fire also transformed social life. Groups gathered around flames for safety. Communication became more common. Knowledge could be shared. Social bonds grew stronger. These gatherings may have laid the foundation for storytelling and culture. Homo erectus also became skilled hunters. Instead of relying only on scavenging, groups began actively hunting animals. They likely used wooden spears and coordinated attacks. Hunting required teamwork, planning, and communication. These activities strengthened intelligence and cooperation. As Homo erectus spread across different regions, they adapted to new climates and environments. Some lived near forests. Others survived in open grasslands. Some faced colder temperatures than any previous human ancestors. Adaptation became one of humanity's defining strengths. For more than 1 million years, Homo erectus survived across large parts of the world. This extraordinary survival made them one of the longest-lasting human species in history. Their achievements changed the future of humanity. They mastered movement across continents. They controlled fire. They improved hunting. They strengthened social cooperation. And through these changes, the path toward modern humans became clearer. Part 5. The Ice Age survivors. Hundreds of thousands of years later, Earth entered a brutal period known as the Ice Age. Massive glaciers covered huge parts of the planet. Temperatures dropped dramatically. Food became scarce. Only the strongest and most adaptable species survived. During this harsh era, different human species existed across the world. One of the most famous was the Neanderthals. Neanderthals lived mainly in Europe and parts of Asia. Their bodies were built for cold environments. They had thick bones, strong muscles, and wide noses that helped warm cold air. For many years, people believed Neanderthals were primitive and unintelligent, but modern discoveries revealed a different story. Neanderthals were skilled survivors. They hunted large animals such as mammoths, deer, and bison. They created advanced stone tools. They controlled fire. They wore animal skins for warmth. Scientists also discovered evidence that Neanderthals cared for injured group members. Some fossils showed healed injuries, proving wounded individuals survived because others protected and supported them. This suggested strong social bonds and compassion. There is also evidence Neanderthals buried their dead. Some burial sites contained flowers and tools. This raised important questions. Did Neanderthals possess spiritual beliefs? Did they understand death emotionally? These discoveries changed how scientists viewed early humans. Neanderthals were not mindless creatures. They were intelligent, emotional, and adaptable. At the same time, another human species was rising in Africa: Homo sapiens, modern humans. Compared to Neanderthals, Homo sapiens had lighter bodies and more advanced cognitive abilities. Their communication skills improved rapidly. Their tools became more sophisticated. Art and symbolic thinking also began emerging. Cave paintings, carvings, and ornaments appeared. For the first time, humans were expressing ideas beyond survival. As Homo sapiens migrated into Europe and Asia, they encountered Neanderthals. For thousands of years, both species lived on Earth together. Scientists now know they even interbred. Many modern humans still carry small amounts of Neanderthal DNA today. Eventually, Neanderthals disappeared. The exact reason remains uncertain. Climate changes, competition for resources, disease, and smaller populations may all have contributed. But Homo sapiens continued spreading across the planet. The survival struggle of the Ice Age shaped human resilience. It forced humans to innovate, cooperate, and adapt to some of the harshest environments in history. These challenges helped prepare humanity for the next stage of evolution. Part 6. The rise of modern humans. Around 300,000 years ago, Homo sapiens emerged in Africa. This species would eventually become the dominant human species on Earth. Modern humans possessed highly advanced brains compared to earlier ancestors. Their thinking abilities transformed survival. Humans could now plan more effectively, solve problems faster, and communicate in increasingly complex ways. Language became one of humanity's greatest tools. Through communication, humans shared knowledge between generations. Skills could be taught, stories could be remembered, warnings could be passed along. This ability accelerated learning and cooperation. Human communities became larger and more organized. Modern humans also developed more advanced tools. Stone blades became sharper. Spears improved, fishing tools and sewing needles appeared. Humans learned how to survive in forests, deserts, mountains, and frozen regions. Adaptability became humanity's defining characteristic. As climate shifted, Homo sapiens began migrating out of Africa. Groups crossed into the Middle East, Asia, Europe, and eventually Australia. Thousands of years later, humans reached North and South America. Humanity had spread across nearly every continent. Migration was filled with danger. Humans crossed harsh deserts and freezing landscapes. Storms, predators, starvation, and disease threatened survival constantly. But human intelligence and cooperation allowed communities to endure. This period also saw the rise of creativity. Humans painted animals on cave walls. They carved symbols into stone. They created jewelry and musical instruments. Art revealed something extraordinary. Humans were no longer focused only on survival. They were developing imagination, culture, and identity. Religious beliefs and spiritual practices may also have emerged during this time. Humans began asking questions about life, death, and the natural world. These ideas helped shape communities and traditions. Social structures became increasingly complex. Groups developed leaders. Tasks were divided among members. Hunting strategies improved. Knowledge became one of humanity's most valuable resources. By this stage, modern humans had become incredibly adaptable. No other species on Earth could match their ability to learn, cooperate, and innovate. The long evolutionary journey that began millions of years earlier was reaching a major turning point. Humans were no longer simply surviving in nature. They were beginning to shape the future of the planet itself. Part 7. The evolution of civilization. For most of human history, survival depended on hunting animals and gathering plants. Humans moved constantly in search of food, water, and safety. But around 12,000 years ago, another transformation began. Humans discovered agriculture. Instead of moving from place to place, people started growing crops and domesticating animals. This changed everything. Farming created stable food supplies. Communities became permanent settlements. Villages slowly grew into towns and cities. Population increased rapidly. As societies expanded, humans developed new systems for survival and organization. People created tools for farming. Trade routes connected distant regions. Knowledge spread between civilizations. Over time, humans invented writing. Writing allowed information to be recorded and preserved. History, laws, stories, and discoveries could now survive across generations. This became one of the greatest advancements in civilization. Ancient civilizations emerged across different parts of the world. In Mesopotamia, early cities developed near rivers. Ancient Egypt built massive pyramids. Civilizations appeared in Asia, Africa, Europe, and the Americas. Humans developed governments, religions, architecture, and complex economies. Technology continued advancing. Bronze tools replaced stone. Later, iron transformed warfare and construction. Ships crossed oceans. Trade connected civilizations separated by thousands of miles. Human knowledge expanded faster than ever before. Over centuries, humanity entered new eras. The scientific revolution changed understanding of the universe. The Industrial Revolution transformed transportation and manufacturing. Machines replaced manual labor. Cities expanded rapidly. In modern times, technology accelerated even further. Humans created electricity, airplanes, computers, and the internet. The same species that once struggled to survive among predators in ancient Africa eventually landed on the moon. Human evolution was no longer shaped only by natural selection. Cultures, science, medicine, and technology became major forces influencing humanity's future. Despite all these advancements, modern humans still carry traces of ancient ancestors. The instinct to cooperate, the drive to survive, the ability to adapt. These qualities helped humanity endure for millions of years. From small ape-like ancestors walking through African forests to a species capable of exploring space, the human story became one of the most extraordinary journeys in Earth's history.